Hi, welcome to Cat TV, and my name is Darlene Young, and I am the outreach coordinator here at Cat TV. And I am so pleased to welcome my two guests here today. I have Charlie Murphy and with me, and also Maurie Hill. And I'd like to let them introduce themselves. We're here today to talk about the White Cane Safety Awareness Day event that will be happening here in Bennington in October, especially on Friday, the 14th of October. So, Charlie, would you please introduce yourself, and then Maurie will introduce herself,
Sure.
and then we'll talk a lot about the White Cane Awareness Day.
You bet, Darlene. Like you mentioned, my name is Charlie Murphy, and I live here in Bennington. I work as a peer advocate counselor with the Vermont Center for Independent Living, and I've lost my sight gradually over the last 50 years or so. And I'm here today with Maurie to talk about White Cane Safety Awareness Day. And I'm a white cane user. I'll show it to you right now. and we want to talk about the importance of people being aware of people like Maurie and I using white canes and the purpose of it, and some of the nuances of awareness around it. When you see a person with a white cane and trying to cross a street and so on and so forth, what folks should do or not do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm Maurie Hill, and I am low vision. I'm actually legally blind. My peripheral vision is normal, but I have no or very little central vision. It's very much like macular degeneration, except it afflicts you starting when you're younger. So it's a degenerative disease. I have a technical background. I went to Vermont Technical College, and I've had technical positions all through the years. Currently, I work as a blog writer at AI Squared and software tester. We actually make software called ZoomText that enables people like me to still be able to use a computer.
Good. Okay, good.
And I use adaptive software also, but instead of something that magnifies what's on the screen, I use something that will read what's on the screen, a screen reader. And AI Squared also has a screen reader called Window Eyes, but I use something called JAWS to allow
And
me.
actually, that's part of our company now as well.
That's right, because JAWS has
Right.
purchased AI Squared.
Right.
Or Freedom Scientific, or VFO, or whatever they call it now.
VFO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So the purpose of the show today is actually to bring public awareness about visual disabilities and about the white cane law and about white cane awareness. And the white cane awareness started way back, let's see if I can get this right, about 1963.
Yeah.
About then Congress wrote a bill, if I remember right, and then President Johnson put it into law that the United States should follow, and every state should do something in October to bring public awareness to visual disabilities and make everybody aware of White Cane Day. Is that set up awareness on, like, what is it, October the 15th?
Yes, that's
Okay.
the official day. That's the day the proclamation says. Yeah.
So can you, the two of you, like, explain what the white cane is and its purpose and who can use it and all that sort of good stuff?
Do you want
Sure.
to? Yeah.
Well, the white cane the purpose is for someone with low vision or blindness to enable them to walk down the street and be independent and navigate stairwells and not have to depend all the time on other people to get around. It's a very long object, and it's also for identification. For example, some people can't tell that I have a vision impairment, but if I'm using a white cane, that's an indicator that, oh, okay, she doesn't see very well. That's why she's asking me what that sign says right there, or which subway to take because she can't read the sign. And I just wanted to add that it's actually illegal for someone who is not vision impaired or blind to use a white cane.
Okay.
So never accuse someone of faking it because it's against the
Yeah.
law.
Do you find people are helpful to you, like when you're using the cane?
I do. I find people are quite helpful, quite understanding. I mean, every now and then I might hear some whisper in the background, well, what's that, kind of thing. But generally people are, I mean, people have been very gracious with me. And I've been very grateful for the, just the interaction I have with folks. Like Maurie had said that, as far as, I used to wear glasses and I used to use the cane. But as I gradually lost my sight, back 30 years ago, 35 years ago, when I started using the cane, I didn't use the cane with the usual, like you tap, tap, you tap where your foot is supposed to land. So
Okay.
then you go back and forth and you put your foot where you once tapped and you swing it back. But I carried it sometimes as a walking stick. And as Maurie said, it kind of like people would see me going down Main Street and generally they moved because I just kept moving. And so it was a thing of awareness, a symbol of awareness. And then sometimes I back at that point when I was using it, I would use it as a walking stick, but I would know where there was a curb. I'd be aware of where there was a curb, so I'd use the cane to actually feel the curb. And stairs, I'd use the technique that you use when you use on stairs to find out where they are and how many they are and all that kind of stuff. So you can use it in different ways, but the whole idea is to let folks know that you're a person with low vision or no vision, and that's what you use for mobility to get around.
I don't typically use my white cane like going about town, but one time my daughter and I went to New York City and we were on the subway and I was like, well, this is unfamiliar territory, let me get out the cane. And people came up to us and to help us. Of course, my daughter was only like 7 or 8, so between the daughter and the white cane, they just were so helpful.
Were they
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Right in New York City.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you're in a big city, sometimes folks, traditionally you hear that they're not as helpful, but they're always hustling and bustling, and
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like they're as helpful. But that was good.
No, they were extremely helpful.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good.
And whenever I stopped to ask directions, it was no problem.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great. Now, what's the emotional feeling of using a white cane like? And like when you were losing your sight and having to transition over to using a white cane.
Well, Maurie, will tell you that a lot of times when folks get trained with a cane, it'll be many years before they actually use it. They put it in the closet and whatnot. And in my situation, I was trained in '77. RP causes night vision loss initially, and then tunnel vision. So I was losing my peripheral. So I started using it in '77, '78, and I used it around here a little bit, but not much. I did some volunteer work at the hospital. I used it there. I went to college. I used it around Troy, Albany. When I came back here, I didn't use it as much because there was this sense that, why would I want to draw attention to myself as a guy who was losing sight? I just thought I just didn't feel right to me. But I was using it some anyways. And then my wife-to-be pointed out that, when I was walking, I feel with my feet. And I thought, well, gee, if people see me doing that, then they wonder what the heck I'm doing. I might as well use the cane and just cut right to the chase. And once I started using the cane at different levels in my life or different times in my life, it was just like a breakthrough. It just took the stress off because I didn't want to stay home and just hang out. I wanted to live a life, have a life. And the cane it was just a load off my shoulders once I started, using it and getting around.
Now, can you just clarify for our viewers what RP is, please?
Yeah, retinitis pigmentosa. It's the sight loss thing I have, and it comes in different. I call it flavors. But some people will be diagnosed early, like I was, relatively early, and have some sight throughout our lives. Other folks will be diagnosed early, lose sight by 30. Other folks diagnosed later, 40s, 50s, 60s, and gradually lose their sight or lose it. It just varies.
Okay.
But that's what I have. Yeah.
Alrighty. And Maurie, your vision loss was caused by?
It's a disease called Stargardt disease. It's an autosomal recessive trait. I have 6 siblings, including myself. My parents did not exhibit the disease, but 3 of their 6 children have it.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
they obviously both carried it,
Okay.
but it's very unlikely that my daughter will have it, or
Yeah.
she'll be a gene carrier, but she won't exhibit the disease.
Yeah.
And yeah, it affects only the central vision, where you have 20/20 vision. Peripheral in any normal eye, like myself, is 2200. Which is pretty good. I'm able to enjoy the scenery and navigate around fairly well. But if you point out a deer in the field or ask me to read the text on your paper, I can't do it, because that's where you need the high acuity.
I see. Okay.
And mine was I had mediocre central vision because I was myoptic, nearsighted, and I had astigmatism. But with my better eye, it was 20/80, and with my worst eye, it was like 2200, 2300. But with my good eye, I could see stuff, but I couldn't see stuff on the sides, or if it was dimly lit. So I would be like mediocrely sighted and then not sighted at all. And you mentioned about how people confuse folks. For example, back in the 80s, I would use my cane, I had glasses on, and I did hear people call me the fake blind guy. And I would say to myself, well, why the heck would I ever want to do that?
Yeah,
So,
No one wants to fake blindness.
exactly. But I guess it was just easy for folks. But because I was hoping in some ways that I would have like no acuity, because that is more understood by society, at least it was, than my type of vision loss.
Yeah, I remember when I first noticed my central vision, it was really, really, really hard to explain to people, including myself. You almost felt crazy sometimes, because sometimes you could see something, sometimes things come in and out of
I
your
agree
vision.
with you, yes.
And then as it got worse, it was okay. I understand it now, and I can explain it.
Yes.
What I can and cannot see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing those. It must be very difficult. I mean, but I don't know. It just.
It was harder when I was younger. Now it's just gotten easier, just
Is
with
it?
time, yeah.
Yeah. Now, what are some of the drawbacks, especially like in the winter months with the white cane? Like with the snow and the ice. I mean, do you find that you have problems walking with it, or
Yeah.
you
Well, for example, if a street isn't plowed, you might as well forget about using cane technique. And even if there's like a couple inches, I mean, I've walked down the street and somebody noticed that there was like a snake trail zigzagging, the way I drag it across the street. But yeah, it's difficult. Plowed streets are essential, pretty much. If you're totally blind, if you have some sight, you can probably figure it out. At least I did back in the day. But getting around snow banks, difficult. All that kind of ice, I've done splits on ice and all that kind of stuff. And just getting around town in general. There's some areas of town that are easier to get around with. I use my cane. When I cross Main Street, I cross at traffic lights.
Okay.
There's an audio stoplight up here on Beach Street, one on the Four Corners, one
Right.
down on Dewey, one over on Park. And so that's very handy.
Now, do they count too? Have I heard the numbers? I mean, there's a beep, but is there also like a number counting? Does that
A
give you?
countdown.
No.
Okay.
It just says, I can't remember what it exactly says, but it'll say you can cross, and you just
Okay.
boogie,
Okay.
and you go.
Sometimes there's a visual countdown.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
10, 9, 8, 7.
Oh,
Because
okay.
that was my next
Yeah.
question.
I don't
Like,
know.
what about the crossing of the roads? Like here
Right.
in town. Are there safer places to cross and not so safe places to cross?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like when
Definitely.
I use the audio stoplight. I mean, I was trained to cross up here by Stewart's, by the old Stewart's,
Okay.
on Safford and Maine, and that can be awkward. So they put an audio stoplight in. Thank God, I thank the town of Bennington for that, up on the corner of Beach and Main, and it works really well. Main Street's a little wide, so if you're crossing Main Street, it's a wider, of course, down here on the side on Main Street itself as you're at the Four Corners. And if you cross North Street or South Street, it's a little narrow, especially North Street, so that you
Right.
get across quicker. And also, I know you were saying that you have a friend that that tries to go from where they live over on like Belmont Avenue to Kmart.
Yeah, my sister lives in
Yeah.
Bennington,
Yeah.
and she said that's the worst place.
Yeah.
She lives off of Benmont, and to get over to the Kmart shopping area is very difficult.
Yeah.
But it seems like they're putting in a traffic circle or something there. I'm
Yeah,
not
down
sure.
near Walmart, now they've got those rotaries, and there's a crosswalk there, and it's like I was watching someone cross there the other day on my way through, and it's like, that is going to be difficult because I don't think that there's any lights there, and of course you've got the rotary, and you've got cars going this way, and the other way, and it's gonna be. I don't know if they're gonna try to put in a light, not a light, but a timer or something there, because I don't know how a person with a sight disability is going to be able to handle that.
Well, I know where you mentioned at the corner of Coker Drive and Route 7, Cocher Drive, Northside Drive, the town has gotten funding, and I don't know I think it's tied in with the state and the feds, but they've got okayed for funding to make that intersection pedestrian friendly, quote unquote.
Whoa.
And access will be one of them. I mean, as far as people in wheelchairs, and there'll be some way to get across rather than just darting across traffic the way it is now.
Right.
It's scary.
It's too many lanes of traffic
Exactly.
to cross, especially when you can't see very well.
Exactly.
Well, there was a couple of people in those electronic scooters with flags on the back of them trying to cross there a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it was like, no.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even, when back in the day when I could see, I avoided that. I would cut across, there was a way where you could go kind of like the old Route 7, which cut off, instead of going down to the right toward the state offices, it kind of veered off to the left a little bit and ended over by was it Pyrotech or Irving's, the gas station. You cross over the railroad track. So I would go that way. I don't know if you can still do it now, but I would avoid that like the plague.
Yeah.
And then I go down into the footbridge behind McDonald's and just avoid stuff.
Oh yeah, that's a great footbridge.
Yeah, because you get away from all the traffic.
Yeah,
But I did not want to cross that at all.
No.
Now, I was doing some other some sleuthing. I mean, when you asked me to
I volunteered you.
Yes. I got this really neat note. I don't know if he told you in the beginning, but I got this really neat email from Charlie. It's like, would you like to do me a favor? And it's like, all depends, Charlie. What is it? And it's like, would you like, so it's like, okay, tell me what this is.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I've just been doing some research over the last couple of weeks, and, some of the visual disabilities, I mean, glaucoma can really, get really, really bad and, make your vision almost nil. And cataracts can do it, and age-related macular degeneration. And nearsightedness, like myopia, can bring your vision way down. And we know about the retinitis pigmentosa because this is what you have. Injury from accidents can blow your eyesight.
Sure.
Different diseases like measles can really do it.
Diabetes.
Diabetes is the big one.
It's just not blindness anymore. I mean,
Right.
there are so many different things that can just
MS
MS
affects your
can too.
vision.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even run across that, but it's
Right.
just
And I have a friend, and I've heard of other folks that back like in the 50s, when preemies were born, they were put into an incubator,
Yes.
and a lot of times the oxygen
the
level
oxygen level.
Right.
Yeah.
was too high, and I have a friend, Jean, that lost her sight as a result of that.
Yeah, I know a few people with that.
So there's just so much going on, and I mean, we don't even hear about a lot of this,
Yeah.
So
Right.
this is really a wake-up call for people to, and like I said to you, I was looking at my horoscope after. I mean, I don't really go on a day-to-day basis of horoscopes, but like I read it when I came in to work this morning. I opened up the banner after, and it's like, like today you're going to take on other challenges. Like other people have gotten you interested in other things. And it's like, okay.
There you go. Well, that's why this show is great, and also like the Safety Awareness Day, because we're going to meet down at on the 14th of October from 11 until 1. We're going to meet down at the Vermont Department of Health Conference Room. Start there, which is in the CCV building, the Community College Vermont building, across from where Greenberg's was, and we're going to start there and have a walk around town. We're going to have a little discussion at 11 o'clock. Then at 11:30 we'll have an experiential walk where folks that attend who haven't lost sight, we want the whole community to be there. People who have limited sight, no sight, people who have 20/20 vision or 20/10 or whatever, can join us.
Yeah,
And
they can choose to be blindfolded and be led by someone else. And even with me being legally blind, I did it with a blindfold, and it really was an eye-opener, so to speak. Like, wow, getting across this parking lot where the sidewalk disappears, it's like crossing the ocean.
Yes, it's just
without
vast, that's right.
Yeah.
And if you're like myself, where like I use my cane to find seams and whatnot in the pavement or sidewalks, and if you've got a wide, like I was talking about when you cross Main Street, if you don't keep straight, you can just go off a little bit, and if it's a little bit here, it's a lot when you get 50 feet away, and you can just end up not where you want to be.
And I found it was tiring. I mean, I'm sure you get used to it, you get better, but when I took cane training, I chose to be blindfolded so that I would learn a little bit more, and you can only do it for so long. At first, it was surprisingly exhausting.
Yeah.
So
because you're learning things. Like I remember one of the first people that showed me, well, it was a refresher course, because I didn't use it for about 10 years as a, like tip tap kind of thing. And the person said, well, try to do it so you don't walk like a robot, really, like boom, 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 kind of like do it, let it flow, let it be fluid. And so it takes a lot of concentration. And right now I may not be the best cane user, but I get around.
And that's the main thing.
That's right.
that's the main thing.
Now, for those folks that are studying the driver's manual, there's notes here that says from the driver's manual that you should use extra caution when approaching a blind pedestrian. When a pedestrian who has a white cane or is being led by a guide dog is crossing or waiting to cross the street ahead of you, you must stop and yield the right of way. Okay? And also a state law, Chapter 13, Operation of Vehicles, 23 Vermont State, Section 1057, Duty toward Blind Persons. Whenever a pedestrian is crossing or attempting to cross a public street or highway guided by a guide dog or carrying in a raised or extended position a cane or walking stick, white in color or white, tipped with red, the driver of every vehicle approaching the intersection or place where the pedestrian is attempting to cross shall bring his or her vehicle to a full stop before arriving at the intersection or place of crossing, and before proceeding shall take such precautions as may be necessary to avoid injuring the pedestrian. It's unlawful for any person, unless totally or partially blind or otherwise incapacitated, while on any public street or highway, to carry in a raised or extended position a cane or walking stick which is white in color or white tipped with red. Nothing in this section deprives any totally or partially blind or otherwise incapacitated person not carrying a cane or walking stick and not being guided by a dog of the rights and privileges conferred by law upon pedestrians crossing streets or highways, and the failure of any totally or partially blind or otherwise incapacitated person to carry a cane or walking stick, or to be guided by a guide dog upon streets, highways, sidewalks within the state, does not constitute and is not evidence of contributory negligence. And the penalty is duty toward blind persons is 4 points, a minimum fine of $41, and this must have gone up because it doesn't say when this was last, done. The maximum fine is $1,191. So,
It's a lot of points.
It's a lot of points. And I mean, I know in drivers, when you get a license, it's in the, like you say, it's in the manual, so on and so forth, when you learn to get your license and all. And it's just something I think needs to be stressed more and more, like just crossing in a crosswalk. For people that have no vision issues, totally sighted. There's, people, motorists should stop for people in
Oh,
crosswalks.
God, yeah.
And this brings it along a little bit further for people that are blind and visually impaired. I just want to show you my cane.
Yep.
I'll open it up. I don't know if you can see it from here, but this is the red tip down through here. This thing's got a roller ball on it. The first many canes that I had just a straight tip, and that would get caught and stuff. This roller ball is big enough and it rolls so it doesn't get caught in grass and different things. And this is how I use it. It folds up. I can stick it in my pocket, knapsack, carry it under. I usually, when I go places, I keep it next to me, so if I get up, I don't lose it or forget it. I was in Italy a couple months ago, and the next morning I said, "Where's my cane?" And what had happened, I stopped at a little hotel, my girlfriend and friends, and when I got up, I left it on the chair at the hotel.
Oh, no.
And but when I went back to the hotel, Kim and I went in, and the guy, we explained, and he. There it is. So I put it on my leg so I remember where it is if I'm paying attention. Yeah.
Now, you've had experience using a guide dog too,
Yes, of course.
right?
Yeah.
Now, guide dogs have been around since about 1942.
Okay.
Tell me the difference and how you feel between the difference between a guide dog and the cane, besides, having to care for the dog and, I mean, feeding it and walking it and watering it and the whole 9 yards.
A dog is really good. Let me start off by saying that when you get a dog, you have to be disciplined, so you can keep the dog disciplined, because there's certain things that you need to be on top of, so the dog doesn't, go back to doing dog things. So you have to be disciplined yourself to discipline the animal. But yeah, I mean, having a dog just scooting down Main Street, I wouldn't have to, use the cane to feel for stuff or guess where I am. The dog would be right there beside me. It'll stop at a street, at the edge of a street, the end of the sidewalk, beginning of the street. Stop, wait for me to give the signal, and away we go. So having a guide is really good for getting around. And I had 2 of them for a total of 12 years. And I thought I gave up my last one because of my life circumstances had changed, and I wasn't able to really use the dog that well or care for the dog. And I thought, after my circumstances, changed again, that I would get a guide, but I chose not to, because I get for my needs right now, I get along well with my cane, and then I volunteer everybody from Darlene to Maurie to whoever's around as my guide, my sighted guide, and I draft people from time to time, and so that's how I get around. I'm not a lot, but if I'm in one spot, I'll say, like when we came in here today, I was on the other side of the studio, and Maurie guided me over here to the chair, and when I left my office down the street here, I was using my cane, coming up.
I don't know if it was you that mentioned this, but with a cane, you're finding objects in the way, and with a dog, it's finding vacant spaces to go through.
Yeah. The dog finds the object in your way, or avoids the object in your way. So it's really nice. That's right. Yeah, that was what we were talking about. That's right. Yeah, it's really cool.
We have probably about, I would say, about 8 minutes. What would you like to talk about in those 8 minutes? Would you like to wrap up and just talk about what's near and dear to your hearts?
Well, I mean, White Cane say, like we were saying, that there's going to be the experiential walk, and folks can get out. We're going to go out onto Main Street and go up to the Four Corners, cross the Four Corners, go down in front of the Putnam Hotel building, down to Washington Avenue, cross Main, and back up to the Vermont Department of Health conference room. And we're going to have light refreshments afterward and discussion. So we really encourage everybody to come out, just to get a feel, awareness and sensitivity. And as we know, there are folks that have lost sight, because a lot of people that have lost their sight are older, like my age, in their 60s. I was losing my sight as Maurie, also younger, but the majority of people lose sight later on. So there's people out there that are experiencing the initial, onset of sight loss, and I think it's good to let folks know that with a cane, you have just more options.
Right.
You have more independence.
And there's so many other resources as well. I think it's when people start losing their vision, they don't know where to turn, and it's hard for them to make that first step.
Yeah.
I know I've met people who know someone who are going through that, and I always give them my telephone number and say, please call me because I've been through this. They never call.
Yeah.
It's hard to make that first step, but
Yeah, it is.
if you do it, you'll learn that there's so many resources out there. You don't have to, you can still read the newspaper, listen to the newspaper. I read all the time, listen to books. You can still use a computer. You can still manage your mail. You can still adjust your thermostat with just simple little tips. And so I would encourage those to contact the Vermont Division of Blind Services, DBVI, right?
Yep, Division for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and also the
Right.
Vermont Association of the Blind and Visually Impaired. They can teach you cane training and how to set your house up to make it more accessible with like thermostats that talk, or marking with tactile kind of like bumps to feel things. And both DBVI, Division for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and the Vermont Association of the Blind are sponsoring White Cane Safety Awareness Day. There's 4 of them around the state, at least 4 of them around the state, and this is ours down here in the Southwest.
Right.
And things that there's just so many options compared to when I started grappling with living a life. I call it going blind gracefully, and just rather than just I didn't want to be a victim, and
Right.
I wanted to be independent, and so compared to the 70s, 80s, 90s. After the turn of the century, electronically, iPhones, there's something called the NFB Newsline. You can get that through your phone. You can get it through an iDevice like an iPhone, iPod Touch.
That's
And
for listening to newspapers.
listening to newspapers, the banners
Local
on it.
papers.
Local papers.
Bennington Banner, Rutland Herald, Brattleboro, Burlington Free Press, as well as New York Times and any other state that's involved.
That's right. And there's
that's good.
weather alerts.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear the beepity beeps on the television, but rarely does it say what those beeps are about when there's a weather warning coming through.
Right.
You take out the NFB news line and there's the alert right there.
Wow.
It's really cool.
So, even if, you're shy and if you're experiencing really bad problems with, macular degeneration or cataracts, and, you're not into having surgery, or, you're really shy and, you don't feel you can go to this event on the 14th of October, Charlie and Maurie are here for you. You can get in touch with me here at the station at 802-442-8868. I can get you in touch with both of these people. They can get you in touch with the people to get these devices that can go on your computers, so that you can get the newspaper, you can get the software, so that you can be visual and use your computers, so you can get your life back.
Have independence.
Yeah.
And I just want to interject, like I mentioned earlier, I work as a peer advocate counselor at the Vermont Center for Independent Living. My office is 2 doors down in the First Baptist Church, and we help other folks with disabilities line up with resources, problem solve. We're mentors, not social workers or case managers. And you can reach me there at 445-3015.
Yep. He's my neighbor next door to Cat TV.
That's right.
So, he's just a scream away. And if I can't scream out my window, I can email him
Email me
for
real
you.
quick,
So,
that's right.
So, and, I can get Maurie on board really easily.
That's
She
right.
just met me today, and she knows I'm the wild one. So, so they're just an email or a shout away.
That's
so. We're really glad that you could, visit with us today. And I am so glad, Maurie and Charlie, that you were here today to share your stories and, let people know about the White Cane event. And we're looking forward to it. Thank you. And please come back again.
And thank you for accepting
Thank
my
you.
drafting of you.
Oh, you're welcome anytime. This is fun. And, I'm just so glad, that I could, be the catalyst to help you get the word
get
out
the
there,
word out. Yep.
So thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Darlene.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank
and
you, Cat
thanks for
TV.
joining us. Okay, bye now.